So I'm here with Sean from Action Retro, an amazing channel that I've been a huge fan of for a very long time now, and he has just hit 100,000 subscribers, which is a really big milestone in any kind of YouTube channel. So I thought I would get him on and kind of pick his brain on all things YouTube and retro computing and all of that side of stuff. So how are you doing?
Nice. Pretty well. Can't complain. Just sitting down here in my very well organized basement.
Yes, I think this is a side of the kind of the studio basement setup that we don't get to see.
Oh,
yeah, I have a very similar area just over here, just out of shot. So you're not the only one.
Yeah, this is kind of my workspace here, and I have my electronic drum set there. I don't know if you can see it, and
Nice.
all my computer parts laid out. And then I have one sort of nice organized area that looks good on camera, and that's about it.
Of course, because you are a fellow musician, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. I've got some guitars right at hand.
Oh, nice.
A bass over here. You play bass, right?
Yeah. So this the picture behind me, the canvas on the wall behind me, is my old band Titan. That was like
nice.
10 years ago. And yeah, I think you played guitar in an emo band for a few years, didn't you? And
yeah. So I played guitar. I'm not very good. I played rhythm guitar in an emo band maybe 15 years ago.
Wow.
Our claim to fame was one time we opened with the Starting Line, which was a mid-level, like, signed band. That was as far as my music career got.
Sounds familiar. Yeah, you remember OPM? They had a song called Heaven is a Half Pipe. We supported them when they played in our local town, and we played to about 15 people, and that's kind of our claim to fame as well. But
nice.
It's a whole lifetime ago. I think the crazy thing about us, and the one thing that's kind of always drawn me to your channel is that we kind of we have a lot in common, don't we? We kind of live these parallel lives, I think. Yeah. Both, being musicians and being in bands and being into retro computing stuff and having the YouTube channels. And obviously, you had you recently built your new studio in your basement, and that kind of inspired me to sort of give me the kick that I needed to upgrade my own setup. And
nice.
Yeah, so what is the secret? How you started at around the same time as me? I think you started like early 2020. I think the first video I ever uploaded was like November 2019. So literally around the same time. Yeah, and I've been watching your channel since literally since the very early days. But you've had this. You've kind of had this massive. I mean, don't get me wrong at all. I'm very, very happy with the way my channel's doing as well. But consistency, high quality, words that I would associate with Action Retro, madness, shenanigans. How do you do it?
I mean, it's fun. I didn't realize that we started that closely together, actually. It was just kind of like a whim during lockdown. I had been watching a lot of YouTube, like Dan Wood. I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Wood on YouTube.
I am.
I was obsessed with his channel for a while, watching him get his Amigas online and stuff. And I had like a few retro computers around our tiny Philadelphia apartment that my now wife, was like, don't open those up in the house. Who knows what's inside? Who knows what kind of dust is in there? But yeah, I just kind of, after watching, LGR, Dan Wood and stuff, I thought, I wonder if I can document some of the silly things I'm doing with computers. Just kind of on a whim and arbitrarily thought maybe it would be a challenge to do a video per week. And I think that consistency is what YouTube looks for.
It's interesting you mentioned silly things, because that's kind of the thing that I associate with your channel, because there are so many channels like us that, or like mine, I guess, where we kind of talk about the history of stuff and we fix stuff, and that's kind of what we do. But yours, it's like, let's take this Mac from the mid-90s and shove a load of ridiculous upgrades in it and try and get it to play Minecraft or watch YouTube on it or something like that. Obviously, the action part of Action Retro, and I think that's kind of what sets you apart.
Yeah, thanks. It's funny too. Like long before YouTube, like I was just obsessed with doing that kind of stuff. So I remember back even in high school, somebody gave me a 386 laptop, and I thought, I wonder if I can just use this. And of course, this is in like the Pentium 4 era. but I'm trying to get AOL Instant Messenger working on it, and chat with people. And running out of memory and stuff. So I don't know why I'm drawn to do these silly things, And also kind of in the beginning, like watching your channel, for example, where it's these kind of in-depth documentaries. I mean, that's like all I watch on YouTube is that kind of content. Yeah. So I'm just glad that other people find this as interesting as I do.
Yeah, well, as you know, I've been a patron of yours as well for a long time as well. So
yeah, thanks for that.
Big supporter of that. Yeah, I must admit, I did do some background research into you earlier today because I didn't really know your backstory, and I kind of assumed that this had been your full-time job for a while because obviously you've got all the other sort of side projects, like you've got FrogFind and 68K News and the other stuff that you've done kind of in parallel with the channel. So I thought, well, I really want to support this guy because I really want to support what he's doing. And then I find out you've got a full-time job as well. So just like me, and it's like...
I was just going to say, it can be hard to balance.
Yeah, no, I certainly know that feeling. Because are you self-employed or...
No, I used to be like doing consulting, but for the past 6 or 7 years, I've had a full-time job. I am lucky enough that we do 2 days in the office, 3 days from home. So I'm not like wasting all this time on a commute. So that does give me a bit of an advantage time-wise, but yeah, it can be hard to balance.
Again, very similar to myself. It's quite eerie. Because you work in SEO or?
Yeah. So basically, I do like web development, but focused on fixing SEO issues.
Yeah, so I'm web development, but more on the coding side. So I was going to ask: is the SEO side of things? Do you think optimizing your videos? Do those skills kind of transfer to YouTube and trying to get stuff to sort of rank highly on YouTube?
In the beginning, I thought that would be the case. And I did some experiments. Like I would look for topics, like instructional things that had a video, but it was very old. So I would try to make an updated version with, the newer version of the software, like installing Mac OS from a USB stick or something, how to do it on PowerPC. And I think those brought some people in from Google search results, but it pales in comparison to just making consistent videos and having the algorithm pick up a video. So, I don't think SEO really plays into it at all on YouTube. I think it's purely consistent content and getting people who are subscribed to click. So make it interesting, know what they want to watch, and try to make a video, immediately obvious that it's going to be interesting for them. Not clickbait. Clickbait ruins it, actually, because then people click in, don't like it, and leave, and that kind of messes with the algorithm.
Yeah, I must admit, I've been tempted to go down the clickbait route myself as well, with a few videos, and it can sometimes kill your retention, and you do get some quite angry comments from people as well who are, people who hate clickbait. I mean, I'm not a fan either. So, but you have to try these things. You have to experiment, especially.
Yes, you have to experiment.
Because I had those solar videos, which I've been trying to get away from for ages. I'm sure you'd be familiar with the story if you've been watching my channel for a while. But that the one that really blew up and got like 800,000 views in the end. That was all search driven.
Yeah,
and I don't know, I don't really understand what I did, because people were just searching for like DIY solar, and it was coming like top of the search results in YouTube, and I have no idea what I did. I mean, obviously, like I say, I'm kind of from a web development background, and I have dabbled with SEO, and I do try to sort of optimize things and put the keywords in and the tags and all that stuff. But it still puzzles me to this day. Got to the point where it took over the whole channel, and then I had to take the whole thing down, as you know.
Yeah, I remember the story, which I found very interesting. The decision making behind having to, deciding to take that video down. You don't want to be a solar channel. It's very interesting. I mean, I don't know. Like, you must have racked your mind to make that decision.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What do you think? Do you think I made the right decision? I still don't know.
I think so. I mean,
okay.
unless you wanted to go into just being like a solar channel, you're getting all these people who aren't going to click on the other videos. If you, want to make the retro computing content, it's going to kind of destroy the click-through rate from your subscribers if they're all coming in from a completely different topic.
Yeah, I know. Especially, I mean, I had like 7,000 subscribers when it sort of just before it blew up, and then I kind of gained like nearly 20,000 in a in a month, and it was like, oh, none of these people are going to watch my videos, and yeah, I think one of the first sort of really big, sort of popular viral videos on your channel was it the Cursed Mac, the SE30. I love that series. That was one of my favorite things that you've ever done. That Cursed Mac, especially that very first video when you kind of open it up and you were like, "Oh my god, what's going on in this inside this thing?"
Yeah, that was a pretty wild experience because I had a completely different video planned, and then I just saw on a listing locally this blurry picture of a spray painted black compact Mac. I was like, I have to go get that, and so. Yeah, I just went, picked it up, brought it home, and started recording. It was the first time I've ever done that. And I haven't really done that since. Everything I do is part scripted, part, not scripted. But this one, I just kind of turned the camera on and cracked it open. And that was like 2 years ago now or more. It's pretty crazy, yeah.
Because back in those days, that was before the new studio setup, wasn't it? So that was when you were literally just like a pair of tattooed arms on screen that kind of randomly pointed at stuff, and then all of a sudden, like, you had a face, and it was like, oh.
In Philadelphia, it's a lot of very, very small row homes. So we had a small, even by Philly standards, row home, a bedroom that was barely big enough to fit a queen-size bed, and then the office, which became my recording studio, which is basically the size of a closet. And when I bought my camera, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I just bought a lens based off of reviews. And it turns out, even with the camera all the way against the wall, the room was not big enough for me to be in frame. It was just barely enough room to get that table in the frame enough.
Yeah, because I have this obsession with 16mm lenses, which is like, it's practically a wide-angle lens. And the reason I started using those was because I was the same. I was recording in this tiny little, closet-sized room in our house.
Yeah.
Obviously, you saw my old setup, but
Yep.
and yeah, I put the camera one end of the room, and I sat right at the other end of the room, and there just wasn't. That was it. That was the whole thing. So it's quite nice to move into a proper sort of studio space. And
I remember you did like a tour of your old setup. I was very surprised at how small it was.
Yeah, just kind of stood in the middle of the room with the camera, on like a handheld, on like a Gorilla Pod or something, and just turned around saying, well, that's that, and that's that, and that's that. And that was literally the tour. Yeah, I need to do an updated one of this kind of space, really. Now this is all up and running. Obviously, I did the build videos and stuff.
Yeah,
because I love stuff like that. I love kind of behind the scenes, seeing how things work, and
for sure,
what microphones people use and what cameras people use. And I'm still kind of experimenting here. I've done a couple of videos with like overhead mics, and I've started sort of playing with lapel mics and stuff. But you use an overhead mic, don't you? Because you've got like a rig thing.
So I had quite a journey of trying to figure out what equipment to use, because going into it, I had no idea. So originally it was just my phone, actually this phone here, my Galaxy, and I had it duct taped to a stand. And then I found that my USB microphone worked with an adapter in there. And then I just put that like on another stand, like duct taped to a shelf. And that was for the first couple of videos. That's what I did. And then, trying to figure out what camera to use to capture CRTs to sync to the refresh rate. So I went through a couple different iterations, but then I found an LGR video where he talked about his camera, which was a Lumix, I think at the time a GH4. So I found a used one of those, and I've been using that ever since. And that has the Synchro scan or whatever it's called. And then, I just watched a ton of videos to figure out what microphone setup to use. And finally, actually, I just changed the microphone too recently to a Sennheiser or something or other, kind of a mid-range one. I was using a Rode, but it had a lot of noise. But yeah, I still don't know anything about this stuff.
It's crazy. It's crazy how much we have in common. Yeah, because I'm on exactly the same journey. So, I mean, I'm all kind of Rode mics at the minute, but I'm starting to think, well, you know, I need to look at professional shotgun mics and SLR stuff, XLR stuff, and you know, audio interfaces, and it's a really deep rabbit hole once you kind of start to go
Oh
down it.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of set up to try to make it as easy as possible. So I have the camera. On top of that, I have an audio interface that plugs directly into the camera. And then from there, just a really long XLR cable up to the shotgun microphone. But then everything goes to the SD card, and then I just put it right into DaVinci Resolve and EQ it in there. So I know, you can go crazy with external recorders and like clap and sync it up, but I don't do any of that.
No, exactly the same. I use Resolve, and I try to record everything on camera as much as possible, just because it's so much easier.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, obviously, because you've committed to this weekly schedule, and you're very good at sticking to that, which I'm not. And I guess sort of streamlining the workflow and getting stuff out. Anything that you can do to streamline your workflow is good when you've kind of committed to that kind of schedule. So yeah, this is obviously we're talking about how small your old house was, and you mentioned before that this is what we're seeing here is your basement, but the studio is also in your basement, and that seems quite big as well. So it's quite a big space.
Yeah. So we moved out. We're right on the outskirts of Philly now, but we found a nice little ranch style house. I don't know if you call them the same over there, but it's a 1-floor house, and the basement is the whole house. So a ranch house is typically more, since it's 1 floor, it's more spread out. And the bonus is gigantic basement. It hasn't been updated since the 1960s, but it's pretty nice. I kind of like the 80s-ish tack of down here. So it has like the wood paneling up that they painted white, which is very like reminiscent of my basement when I was a kid. So it's kind of nice, and definitely the space is pretty good. I wonder if I can like show you by switching cameras.
Let's do it. Let's do a tour.
Let's see.
Or this could all go horribly wrong.
Yeah. Most things do, but that's like my whole thing.
It's on brand.
No, it doesn't let me switch. All right. Well, I can just do this. So here's my huge mess. Yeah, back there is where I used to film, but that's now storage. There's my gaming TV where I have my industrial computer kind of behind it as the gaming PC. And over there, I'm desperately trying to install Rhapsody on a PowerBook. And then we have some laundry back there. Yeah. That was the official tour.
The official tour. Okay. Yeah, the layout makes a lot more sense in my mind now. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, the cool thing is about having a studio, because obviously this is all kind of new and novel to me as well, is that you have everything set up, you've got the lights and the camera and everything set up, and you can just walk in and start recording stuff, which is so novel when you're used to recording in a tiny little room and you've got to set everything up before you can record, you've got to tidy up, and then you record, and then you have to tidy it all away again to start editing, and then you think, oh, I need a bit of B-roll for this, and you've got to get stuff out again, and it's just...
Yeah, you just literally described like a day in the life of that house.
Obviously, I've kind of had to rent this office sort of 2 minutes down the road from my house, which is very convenient, which is nice. But yeah, I've always kind of been jealous of that, actually. You're jealous of me? I was going to say I'm jealous of you because...
That's funny, yeah. We do think very alike, I think.
Yeah, big American houses with like big basements and stuff. And I've always kind of thought, well, that's so cool, because you can just, obviously, like Adrian's digital basement, he's, you just wander downstairs and you've got all this cool stuff to play with. And, I've got to get in my car and drive like a minute down the road. I mean, it's such a hardship. From
one point of view, I guess you're right. It's very nice having this huge space down here that I could just come down to and film. On the other hand, it's like I think I've become a little lax in what I'm doing, where I'm down here doing this. I'm like, oh, I'm bored. I would go upstairs and play with the cats or something. And then I think then it takes me even longer because I'm kind of unfocused. But like you with your studio, that's very cool. You have a dedicated space that you go and you get things done. And the same thing with like RMC, right? So he has that amazing museum in that space. So he has that separation between home life and going there and being Mr. RMC and filming the videos and getting it all done. So I mean, I think my dream would be to have a space like that, even if I had to pop in the car, just not too far.
He was a really big inspiration to me when I first started, and obviously I've kind of not, never made any kind of secret of that. And he was very kind of him to invite me to his original cave, which was a very similar size and a very similar setup to this. Way back when I first started my channel, and there's an infamous photo of me posing with him and acting like an idiot. But yeah, I have to say, when I kind of first got my hands on this space, I went back to those photos and I was like, right, how did Neil lay his space out? And I've gone for a very similar kind of workbench area down that end, which has actually just become a massive dumping ground for stuff. So nobody ever sees that on camera, even though the plan was to use that as kind of a secondary filming space. And now I've got this kind of tiny bit in the corner that's tidy. And this desk, which seems to get more use than anything, which is kind of my rambling / streaming / interview space and screaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting stuff. But I think yours is definitely messier than mine at the moment.
Oh yeah. I'm in a project of trying to straighten it up right now. Just bought a whole bunch of storage solutions, but instead of them being storage solutions right now, they're like in boxes. So they've made it worse.
Yep. I know that feeling. So I suppose we should talk about your other side projects like FrogFind and 68K News.
Yeah.
And are there others that I'm forgetting about? Probably.
They're the big ones.
They're the big ones, aren't they?
I mean, I've done other little things like fixed an installer disk for Rhapsody. I think that's a very niche thing. But yeah, FrogFind is the search engine kind of built for vintage web browsers. Strips down DuckDuckGo search results and then strips down the resulting pages so you can click through the links. And then 68k.news is Google News with kind of the same thing. You can read the news articles. Clicking through strips them down for vintage web browsers. It was kind of cool to bring like my mediocre web development skills into this kind of stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with PHP and you look at the code, you might be a little like, I don't know if I would do it that way, but it does work. And I use them all the time. I mean, that was like the main reason to build them. I was working on what the Cursed Mac turned into, which included networking. So, I wanted to test out like old versions of Netscape and have something to use them with. So, yeah, I built 68k.news first and then used the same kind of concept to build FrogFind. It's the Mozilla readability library. There's a guy, Andres, who did a port of it into PHP. So I used that, found it on GitHub. Very nice of him to make that open source available. So I just have that up on a server with some tweaks to really strip down to basic HTML. And then, DuckDuckGo search results.
So you are not going to believe this, but I had a very similar project a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
where I used that exact same library because
No way.
I wanted it was for browsing websites on the Kindle, the Amazon Kindle, because it has a built-in web browser, but it's absolutely terrible. And I thought, what if I could get web pages and just sort of convert them into plain text and then make them so you could just page through them like you do a book on the Kindle.
Yeah.
And I actually got to the point where it was very nearly all working, and I gave up on it. And that's why the whole FrogFind thing kind of fascinates me, because obviously you've done a very similar project, but you've kind of seen it through to the end. And the odd thing is, I actually put mine on, put it all up on GitHub, all as like MIT license or something, completely open source. And I had a couple of years later, when I completely forgotten about it, there was some random guy in India who contacted me and said, "Oh, do you mind if I kind of pick up this project and run with it and kind of finish it off?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I got so far with it and gave up." And I have no idea how far he got with it. I mean, he could be a millionaire now for all I know,
Yeah.
and based on my project. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. That's why I kind of find the whole thing fascinating, because obviously it's something I have a lot of personal experience of. And just because I am from a professional or a kind of a slightly more professional development background doesn't mean that the code was any better. So, these hobby projects are all the same, aren't they? They're all kind of cobbled together. So.
Well, if you ever want to take a look at that code and tell me what I did wrong.
I am in no position to be judging other people's code. Absolutely not. You said that obviously the inspiration to start your channel was kind of lockdown and being at home and not having anything else to do. And I was really lucky in that I started my channel sort of literally just before all of that stuff happened, and I had no way of foreseeing that was going to happen. But yeah, I think there's a lot of channels that kind of started around that kind of time that are kind of sort of fizzled away now, and you hear about a lot of people kind of retiring from YouTube and stuff like that. But yeah, what's the long-term plan? You 1 million subscribers, taking on LGR at his own game, or is it just? I imagine because we're both a very similar mindset that it's just a case of it's a fun thing to do, and we'll play with it and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I never expected it to go here. When I first started doing this, I was even like, the first couple videos I made, I was making in the office. I didn't even tell my wife what I was doing up there. Just like shut the door and tried to speak quietly so she couldn't hear me, because I felt a little bit embarrassed. Like I'm up here like pretending to be a tech YouTuber or something. And from a personal growth perspective, just the being able to be more confident doing this stuff and feeling like I can contribute to the wider community, that's been amazing. And all the new people that I've met, that's been amazing. So there's so many benefits that were unexpected, but like this whole kind of world of vintage computer enthusiasts and going to shows and stuff kind of revealed itself. So as far as the future goes, we'll see what happens. It's been kind of a wild, amazing ride so far. But yeah, I think my favorite part really is going to like VCF shows and stuff, and just being able to talk about this stuff with people and meet people. So I hope to do that even more. I think that's my goal.
You're getting quite actively involved in like the running of the VCF stuff, aren't you? Because there's the SoCal one. It's the new one that's starting soon. That's very soon, isn't it?
Leaving next week. Yeah.
Yes.
Taking like a little vacation out of it.
I was, I can't remember the name of the guy now, but someone contacted me and asked if I wanted to come and actually speak at that, which was really nice to kind of be recognised. And I would love to do it, but unfortunately, I'm just not in a position to travel to California at the moment. But much as I was there back in September, so I do love that part of. Not that I know America at all, but it's sunny there and the people seem nice enough. So that's all. Yeah. That's all you want.
Yeah. But, well, that's what I'm looking forward to. The sun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to make it over there and obviously do a VCF for at some point in the future, because we don't have that kind of thing here in the UK. Nothing of that kind of scale.
Yeah, I mean, I know you do have shows over there. Like, I would love to go to the RMC cave, and then I've seen a lot of Amiga focused activities over there, which I do have a few Amigas that I'm interested in and want to play more with, so it would be fun to see it kind of in its home turf.
There's the Kickstart Amiga show that started last year. I actually went to that. I've been asked to set up some kind of display or stand or something at this year's Kickstart, even though I'm not an Amiga guy, but I think that's part of the reason they want me there, because they want to kind of, I don't know. They either want an Atari ST owner that they can all point and laugh at, or maybe they want maybe they do genuinely want some representation from some other kind of systems. But looking forward to doing that. And of course, we've got like Play Expo and stuff like that, but it's not really the same as. I mean, VCF, you get like the mainframe guys and all the proper old school guys there, which, as far as I know, I don't think we have anything quite like that. But Hey, if you want to, if you're ever interested in starting like a VCF UK, I would be more than happy to get involved, to help get that set up maybe.
All right, well, everyone heard it here. VCF
Yeah.
UK. Yeah, this is the genesis. We also have some family over there. I forget exactly where. My wife's side. Yeah. So I think they might be right on the outskirts of London somewhere. So if we can do a trip over there, I'd love to work in some other points of interest.
Be welcome here as well if you want to come and have a tour of the studio, but I wouldn't go out of your way. I think the tour would take all of about 2 minutes.
Of course I would, and meet the chickens, right?
Yeah, ducks.
You have chickens, right? Ducks. Meet the ducks. Well, cut out the thing where I said chickens.
It's all the same. Meet the ducks.
What are you working on right now?
That's a very good question. I'm sure you've probably spotted that behind me, haven't you? So, yeah, that's an NEC PC9821. I've just had a video that's gone out on my channel talking about that. Yeah, it's funny you should mention sort of the community and meeting people and speaking to people and that side of things, because that's something I experienced with that machine probably more than anything that I've covered so far on my channel. Because, the amount of PC98 enthusiasts who've come out of the woodwork to help me out and give me information. And one guy sent me like a disk image that's got hundreds of games all set up and ready to go. And it's like, I mean, it would save me, days and days worth of work. And I did make some, I don't know if you saw the whole thing around the video getting taken down and updated and stuff like that. But I did make some mistakes in that video. And usually you make mistakes on YouTube and people are not kind about it, to put it lightly. But these guys are all like, oh, really cool to see that you're getting enthusiastic about this. And by the way, this bit's not quite right, but if you need some help with it or if you need any advice or anything like that. And I thought, these are such nice people. All of these NEC PC98 people are just like universally really nice people, which is why I updated the video, because I thought, well, there's not much stuff out there on this particular machine. So I guess it needs to be right. And I want to do right by these people. But so I've got that set up for sort of capture at the minute. So I'm running through various games and things and doing video capture. And it's got like a weird 24 kilohertz video mode. Kilohertz, I don't know. Which has been quite fun to try and work out with the OSSC and all that side of things. So yeah. So what are you working on? Obviously, you mentioned something to do with Rhapsody, which isn't surprising, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to, because we're going out to VCF in California, so I'm trying to make an exhibit that I can fit into a suitcase. So my idea right now is to run the same version of Rhapsody DR2 on both an IBM ThinkPad for the Intel version and a PowerBook G3 Kanga for the PowerPC version, and call them like the unlikely twins, and that'll be my exhibit. And then as a bonus, I have it running on a Toshiba Libretto too. So yeah, 3 things I can fit into a suitcase and make a hopefully interesting exhibit.
Is there any way you could sort of get them linked up running Minecraft or just to be completely on brand for the channel? No.
Yeah, Minecraft is the VCF East exhibit. It's full of Minecraft. I have a G4 cube running Minecraft.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, you did that cube video as well, where you've done so much stuff, so many videos. The thing that made me laugh in the latest one, when you had, because obviously you took that industrial PC and turned it into the world's worst Steam Deck, and it was just. In the latest video, when you said that you were raiding it for parts for that weird sort of hi-fi wooden thing, and then the camera swings around and you just sort of completely nonchalantly just say, "Oh, yeah, I've been using this as my main gaming PC," and it's not like a joke or a bit or anything. It's like literally, I've just been using this as my main game, and you've got like this huge, great industrial PC just wedged behind the TV, and I thought that could that be any more on brand for Action Retro? I mean. It's not just a thing that you do for the camera for the channel, is it? You are living the the lifestyle.
Yeah, played through most of Starfield on that thing.
Nice. I don't know. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over, really. Obviously, you're kind of busy preparing for VCF, and I'm sure you've got work to get back to. And you said you were fighting with Rhapsody, trying to get that working. So. anything you want to say to ctrl-alt-rees viewers?
Well, I just want to say it was awesome talking to you. Talking in person. It's kind of weird. Still I watch your channel all the time, so there's that kind of weird parasocial thing. So it's like, yeah, I'm talking to a YouTube video, but also it's you, the person. So yeah, hope I wasn't too awkward, but it was a ton of fun talking to you.
Oh no, I'm exactly the same. I always come away from these things thinking, was I weird? Was I awkward?
Yeah,
but
same.
especially when I'm the one that's in charge and trying to steer the conversation. But no, it's been cool. It's been really good. So I'm sure it won't be the last time that we chat either. And I must say, it was. I was quite surprised when I sent you that message, because I literally sent you the message yesterday saying, "Oh, we should chat at some point," and you were like, "What about tomorrow?"
Yeah.
Thought, okay, he's keen.
Yeah, well, I had to ask my people, but they said today was fine. So
it's been great, and I appreciate you making the time to talk to me and
yeah,
appear on the channel and get a bit more sort of background information behind what you do. So yeah, of course I will link to your channel and all the social stuff and all the other stuff in the usual places. I'm sure people know where to find you. But yeah, any last words?
it was fun being a part of the Reese Rambles universe.
Reese Rambles universe.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
How do you end these things?
People usually wave at the camera, right?
Oh yeah. Let's do the wave.